Hello Orchid friends, welcome back to my channel. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day, staying healthy and staying safe. Today we have a primary hybrid, it's called Gigabell. It's a cross between gigantea and bellina. I really like this orchid because not only is it fragrant, it is also a very overachiever in terms of root production, and later in the video you'll see what I mean because it just has very good root system and is very active in growing its roots. I have had this orchid for almost 4 years probably, and I think last video I did on this orchid was its initial bloom video, and this is the subsequent one. And this bloom cycle, this orchid gave me 2 flowers in total, and what you're seeing is the photo and clips of the first bloom. The only downside of this orchid, or I guess the only thing that I wish it would be different, is you see how the marking, the pattern on the flower isn't quite the same as, or quite similar compared to gigantea's red polka dot pattern distribution. And because this cross is grown from seeds, so sometimes it does have a little bit of variations when it comes to flower pattern. So that's always a gamble, and for those of you who are lucky, you may you may be able to get a cross that would that would show color distribution or pattern closer to gigantea. And at this one, the dots, the markings are just a lot smaller than the photo that I saw when I was making the purchase, and I knew that this may happen when I placed the order. Now, gigantea is a very big orchid when this type becomes fully mature, and this particular cross, because it has bellina in it, and bellina isn't too big compared to gigantea, so it does bring down the size a bit. But even that, this orchid still has quite long leaves compared to all my other Phalaenopsis orchid. But no problem, because I put them on a rack by the closer to the edge, so that way their leaves can still be sort of dangled down without problem. This is currently growing in a semi-hydro setup. If you look at the video right now, there are 2 drainage holes on the side of the container. So anything below those 2 drainage holes will be what I call the reservoir area. And with 1/4 cup of water, typically the water level would just be about 50% within the reservoir. And this orchid has enough root system inside the container that the wet-dry cycle is easily achieved within 7 days, which is the frequency I provide water to most of my orchids. So this setup right now is working really well for this particular orchid for now. And in terms of fertilizer, this orchid received quarter strength fertilizer, so that's only 25%. And for those of you who are new and may wonder, how do you achieve that 25% strength fertilizer? For example, if the label tells you 1 tablespoon to 1 gallon, you either reduce the 1 tablespoon amount of fertilizer to 1/4 tablespoon to a gallon, or you keep the same amount of fertilizer, 1 tablespoon, but then you put that into a 4-gallon amount of water. So that way, either way. And for example, for me, for the amount of orchids I have, I usually need about 2 gallons of water. So I simply use 1/2 tablespoon. So you just kind of have to do a little bit of calculation, simple calculation, and then you can easily achieve that 1/4 strength. So this orchid's first bloom, compared to its initial bloom, this one has a little bit more yellow background because it is this bloom took place in a colder weather. It was end of winter, beginning of spring in my environment, and then 3 months later, so this is like mid to late spring when the temperature was higher, and later you'll see when the temperature is higher, this orchid will produce blooms with more pink in the background. And last year, this orchid, last time, it actually bloomed during much warmer months, so it was a lot more pink than the photos that you are going to see in just a few seconds. In terms of fragrance, this orchid has a very much bellina smell to it, because my understanding is that gigantea does not have any fragrance. So the fact that this orchid is fragrant, I would think that it comes from bellina directly. And because it has bellina, so it definitely has an interesting blooming capability, and has that sequential blooming capability too. Bellina is a summer blooming orchid, and the fact that this orchid bloomed in winter months and then early spring tells me that gigantea probably blooms usually earlier in the year. So the combination of two orchids somewhat kind of make this orchid bloom somewhere in the middle, in between, which is fine with me. Because bellina fragrance is very pleasant, and I love it. So this orchid can give me that fragrance earlier in the year, and then in summertime I would then have fragrance from all my bellinas. So it's all good. I've gotten this question a few times, and that is, well, since I have gigantea hybrids, would I ever try gigantea orchid as a species as part of my orchid collection? And the answer is, it is still up for debate. And right now, currently, I don't believe I have any plan to do that, because, gosh, gigantea orchids can eventually get really big, and I still grow all my orchids indoors, and so I'm trying to only grow orchids that would remain relatively small / medium in size, so that way I don't have to worry about finding extra or additional space for it. Overall, this orchid would probably get an A- if I were to give it a grade. Give it a try. It's not a very hard orchid to take care of, and I think you would really enjoy it. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!